Hey, it's your old pal Lucid Stu again, and this is Stu's News, a review of American high-speed rail happenings over the last month. In this July 2025 episode, we'll take a look at what went down in June, but first you're going to want to like and subscribe. Starting with California high-speed rail and the biggest news of the month, the Empire Strikes Back. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy,
who doesn't want to go to Las Vegas,
announced that a compliance review found the project would likely not be operating by its target year 2033. This could endanger federal grants that the project desperately needs. Let's take a closer look. We're talking about two grants here, one for $929 million from fiscal year 2010 that applies to the 119 miles they're working on now. The second is a federal-state partnership for intercity passenger rail grant for $3.07 billion from 2023. That is for extensions to Bakersfield and Merced. Both grants have clauses in them that allow the grant to be rescinded if California high-speed rail is not operating by 2033. The feds have two arguments here. Number one, California doesn't have the funding for the project. Number two, even if they did, they likely wouldn't be operating until 2034. Number one is a pretty solid argument at the moment. Number two is ticky-tack, but this is the law, not horseshoes, and 2034 won't cut it for an administration looking to gum up the works. Those 2034 findings are based on predictions made by project management software 9 years out, so it's not the most solid argument. California high-speed rail officials responded with a letter saying the compliance review is bunk. Fair enough on point 2, tough to argue on point 1. The California high-speed rail Office of Inspector General also weighed in, correcting several mischaracterizations of its statements. However, the Federal Railroad Administration and the OIG aren't far apart on overall sentiment in terms of where they think the project is heading based on current conditions. I suspect the main goal for the Trump administration is to hold up the funds in court regardless of outcome. This has already happened once with the fiscal year 2010 grant under the first Trump administration. That was reinstated under President Biden. Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funds like the $3 billion FSP National Grant are good through 2034. So that could be brought back by a later administration as well if it isn't awarded to and utilized by another project first. Those possibilities don't help California high-speed rail much right now, and the project will start running short on funds as early as this time next year if the state government doesn't step up. Speaking of that, the big short-term hope for the project is extension of cap-and-trade funds through 2045 with a $1 billion per year minimum for the project. That got left out of the budget. Looks like California high-speed rail might get a $1 billion guarantee for next year, but that's about what it would have gotten anyway. The legislature might take up the issue later in the year. Now that you're thoroughly bummed by the project's budget prospects, let's look at construction progress. Capital outlay budget summary spending is mediocre again at $146.4 million for April. Keep in mind these reports run 2 months behind. 2 months to go in the fiscal year with nearly $800 million unspent in the budget. Yeah, they're not hitting that target. Not much happening with construction progress in guideway or structures. That is according to schedule. Progress on completions and new construction are supposed to be ramping up right around now. April was the first month in a while with significant contingency drawdown amounting to $77 million, but about $1.48 billion remains in that pot. That's all for California high-speed rail, but we'll stay in the neighborhood to check in with the High Desert Corridor. The HDC Joint Powers Authority awarded a 5-year $42 million contract to HDR to provide engineering and design services for the 54-mile high-speed rail project through California's High Desert. Not super exciting on its own, but check out this snippet from the HDR press release. Scheduled to proceed to construction in the early 2030s. We'll be watching and waiting. Speaking of waiting, 54 miles to the east lies Brightline West. Let's see what's going on there. First off, I contacted Brightline West for last month's video and they got back to me right after I published it, saying they're now hopeful that heavy construction will start, quote, late this summer/early fall. Something of a bombshell, but I have not seen anyone else reporting this. We'll consider that a scoop.
Crap, mega crap.
I made a short about it at the time and concluded that 2028 isn't happening as far as operations go. I don't have Brightline West internals on the matter, but based on previous information I do have, I'd put money on 2029 being the earliest trains will run at this point. Brightline West gave an update to the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority where they stuck with the end of December 2028 for opening, but that would mean all construction, train set testing, and certs would need to happen inside of 39 months. Who realistically believed 48 was going to happen, let alone 39? Along the same lines, Brightline West requested a third extension on permits for its Las Vegas station. The quote from Brightline West in the article is that, quote, construction is on time. That's relative, but relative to any schedule prior to this year, construction is not on time. And it can be argued that construction is anywhere from 6 to 20 years late at this point. Pre-construction activities are still moving right along though. Let's go through these just to give you an idea of location and what they're doing. For wildlife overcrossings near Basin Road and Zizix Road, they're doing geotechnical boring, which allows them to ascertain soil and substrate conditions. Pavement cores are being taken at Basin Road. I'm not really sure why they need those. On some of these overpasses, the plan is to excavate slightly in the median to provide clearance for the train instead of building a new overpass, so maybe they need to plan for impacts of that on the roadway. Same here at Mojave Drive in Victorville. In this spot though, they may need to widen or restripe the freeway slightly and also likely have to rip up the pavement in the median. Potholing occurred here at Kelbaker Road in Baker. That allows them to confirm the location of utilities or other elements they need to move or work around. Infiltration testing was done at Razor Road. That has to do with planning for drainage. That'll do it for Brightline West. Let's check out Brightline in Florida. Broward County finally got $15 million in railroad crossing elimination grant money to not eliminate crossings on the Florida East Coast right-of-way, which Brightline uses. Those funds will, however, be used to make 21 at-grade crossings safer. Based on description and cost, it sounds like most of those will get quad gates. That's similar to a typical rail intersection, but with additional arms on the far side of the intersection as well to better keep people from driving around lowered arms. That was a grant from fiscal year 2022 that the Biden administration didn't sign for whatever reason. So now Secretary Sean Duffy,
who doesn't want to go to Las Vegas,
gets to take credit after holding the thing up for 4 months. Looking at the Brightline numbers, it's pretty much the same old, but we have some corporate explanation for it that makes it apparent that June numbers should be the moment of truth. I just want to point out that they went from 210 trips per train last year to 267 this year. Not only is that a 25% per train increase, but that's also 70% of current capacity. Now that they've put 5 more carriages into service, daily trains will go back to normal, so there could be a sizable bump in ridership going into summer because the demand appears to be there. Related to the less than stellar increase in Brightline's ridership this year, the company's bond ratings were downgraded by Fitch, with some debt judged to be in the junk bond category. Brightline could have trouble covering interest on some of this debt as early as 2027 if ridership doesn't pick up enough to improve their financial situation. That's all for Florida. Let's head over to Texas for some Texas Central news. Spanish National Railway Company Renfe announced they have shut down their U.S. affiliate. Renfe was brought on as an early operator for Texas Central. Of course, there are no Texas Central trains to operate because there has been no Texas Central construction. One more nail in Texas Central's coffin, but like the vampire, the project just keeps finding ways to rise again. Along those lines, an economic study commissioned by the city of Dallas finally came through that looked at Texas Central's potential impact on the city, as well as a couple of different Dallas-Fort Worth high-speed transportation routes. The study found that Texas Central would add $3.5 billion to the Dallas City GDP and add about 20,000 jobs to its economy. Annual ridership is predicted at between 3 million and 6.5 million trips per year. 3 million is what Brightline in Florida pulls down now. 6.5 million is what Brightline West is counting on, and Amtrak on the NEC gets about twice that. DFW HST's impact on Dallas is much less at 300 million in GDP growth and 1,300 jobs for a western alignment through the downtown Dallas area. The study predicts the eastern alignment would actually be detrimental, so you can probably kiss that one goodbye. That's enough of Texas. Let's wrap things up with Acela and the NEC. Well, summer's here, but the time is wrong for Acela II's being in service. No word yet from Amtrak on when the new train sets will be carrying passengers, but they're doing some sort of training runs now, so they're close. In New Jersey, progress continues on the Portal North Bridge. NJ Transit shared some images on Facebook showing work on the bridge deck with tracks going in and electrical progressing steadily. The bridge should begin carrying trains early next year. A couple of other Gateway program updates at Tunnelly Avenue. They're just about ready to start on the third and final section of a new bridge that will cross over the future tracks. For the Palisades Tunnel section of the project, they're getting ready to excavate an access shaft that will allow a switch between TBM types, one for under the bluffs in New Jersey and one for under the river into New York. Not far away in the Bronx, study documents for the Pelham Bay Bridge replacement have been published. This project will replace the current 118-year-old movable structure with a new movable bridge. Clearance on the new bridge will be raised 25 feet, allowing it to stay closed 3 times more often. Speed through the area will increase from 45 miles per hour to 70. The documents also provide insight into why a higher fixed span capable of 100 miles per hour wasn't chosen. The approach is hemmed in on either side by a station and a road overcrossing. Freight either couldn't or didn't want to deal with the 2.4% grade that would have been required. As is, the new bridge will have 1.5% approaches. That project is in the final design phase now with a total replacement cost of $700 million, no completion date yet. Amtrak numbers late again this month, we'll have to wait until next month. That's all for Acela and the NEC. Now it's time for Stu's Boo Boos, where I go over everything I missed or got wrong last month. The Fitch bond rating downgrade story in the Brightline section was a miss last month. Dutiful commenter Butters That's Me 01 graciously pointed that out. You get a gold star. That brings the gold star total to 23. Silver stars for a boo-boo-free month, 7. A big thanks to the Stu Crew Discord server for all of their help. If you'd like to join our motley crew, check out the invite in the description. Also a big thanks for 20,000 subscribers. Your next reward milestone is 25,000 subs, so subscribe and help make that happen. For 25,000 subscribers, I will be traveling to the East Coast to ride the new Acela IIs. Check out the super thanks button to support the channel and this new mission. Help send Stu to Washington. Coming up next is a special East Coast video to get you warmed up. But that's all for now. Until next time, I'll see you on that big, beautiful freeway.